This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Manitoba's premier says his government could use emergency powers to free up hotel rooms for wildfire evacuees. The province has asked people to cancel non-essential trips to ensure there's enough space for evacuees as wildfires rage around the province. CBC's Mike Arsenault has the latest.
Premier Wab Kinew got a helicopter view Thursday of the devastation caused by the wildfires burning in northern Manitoba. He also met with evacuees at a congregate shelter in Thompson. When he returned, his message was clear. He wants to see more hotels in the province make space for wildfire evacuees.
We can't help but notice we drive by some hotel parking lots that are empty. And then when I see a mom with a baby and a stroller and young kids that are going to sleep on a cot tonight, I think we can do more.
On Friday morning, Kinew clarified he'd like to see more hotel spaces in Thompson specifically.
If I'm Googling open hotel rooms, less than a kilometer away from that shelter, I think there are some folks who could step up and just contribute a lot more.
In a statement to CBC, Thompson Mayor Colleen Smook says she told the Premier that moving evacuees from the shelter to hotel rooms should be a top priority. She says some of them are elders and parents with young kids, and they need better accommodations. The Manitoba Hotel Association represents 260 hotel members across the province, including several in Thompson. CEO Michael Juice says they're having conversations with the province about the need for more rooms.
It's a big complex one of moving 21,000 people into accommodation, and kudos to the team over there and the folks at the Red Cross doing the work and finding that space. But I'm confident in our members in the hotel community here that we can accommodate all our fellow Manitobans.
Kinew says a majority of the hotel sector has been helpful. He says he could invoke emergency powers to free up rooms, but he hopes it won't come to that.
And you're going to be compensated for the service that you provide, and it's in the name of a good cause here. It's helping people out through a very stressful situation. So let's work together on that.
The province says as of Friday, there were 180 evacuees at the Thompson site and less than 90 at a similar shelter in Winnipeg. There are still 21 active wildfires in Manitoba and more than 21,000 people who have been evacuated. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Hundreds of evacuees are now getting the green light to go home. It comes 2 weeks after being forced from their communities due to those wildfire threats. The province says that includes nearly 1,800 evacuees from Cranberry Portage, Snow Lake and Sheridan. Re-entry will start at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Now, returnees are being told to stock up on groceries and other essential supplies before going back. They'll also need to prepare go bags just in case. Now, as you heard, nearly 21,000 people in total have been registered with the Canadian Red Cross as wildfire evacuees. And as of Thursday, still 21 active wildfires. Now, with so many people out of their homes, making sure people are housed and fed has been a challenge. So much so that one Manitoba First Nation says it's covering hotels and meals for hundreds of evacuees it says the Canadian Red Cross is responsible for. As the CBC's Rosanna Hempel explains, Pimichikamak Cree Nation says it can't financially support the situation much longer.
Kim McLeod is holding on to her food receipts. Her evacuee benefits haven't come in yet.
It's been like 2 weeks since we've been paying for our own stuff.
She says Thursday was the first day she got a hotel meal covered through the Canadian Red Cross since her community of Pimichikamak Cree Nation was evacuated due to wildfires.
We've been pretty much feeding ourselves.
McLeod's brother-in-law Edgard Spence says his family has been bouncing around from hotel to hotel in Winnipeg. His First Nation leadership has helped out with meals.
We told them we needed food here for ourselves, and so they dropped some stuff for us.
Pimichikamak leadership says it's footing the bill for some hotels and meals for about 800 people scattered across 19 hotels in the city.
Some of our people are starving because they don't have funds, and we can't get food to them in the various hotels they're staying. So it's a real nightmare logistically.
Incident Commander Ryan Castell says the Red Cross has been slow to take over the cost and responsibility.
This is not a good situation here at all. A lot of our people are suffering.
The Red Cross in Manitoba provides accommodations and meals to First Nations during emergencies such as wildfires. The Red Cross declined an interview, but in a statement to CBC News, a spokesperson encouraged evacuees to register with them, saying, "Without registration, it can be challenging for support to be provided." The province says evacuees are getting 3 meals a day through their hotels and shelters.
It takes a significant amount of coordination effort that we are working on every day to ensure that people's needs are met in a timely manner and that they're kept safe.
Meanwhile, Castell says it's a dire situation they can't financially support much longer.
We need to get our people home as soon as we can.
The chief says they're planning a return but can't yet say when. At least 100 firefighters are still there, trying to contain the wildfire.
So to help address some of those gaps in services, MKO has been helping coordinate housing and supports for some evacuees alongside other Indigenous groups like SCO. CBC's Rosanna Hempel joins us in studio with more. So Rosanna, what do we know about how the Southern Chiefs organization is stepping in?
Well, Brittany, MKO Grand Chief Garrison Satie today called this effort such a massive undertaking. They've asked the Southern Chiefs organization to help coordinate and take over some of those evacuee supports outside Winnipeg. So that includes things like volunteers, donations, reception centers for people staying in Brandon, Dauphin, Portage la Prairie, and Morden Winkler. And it comes as First Nations leaders continue to call on hotels to free up space. When asked whether the Manitoba government should use its emergency powers to do that, here's what SCO Grand Chief Jerry Daniels had to say.
I think that the owners of these hotels should rise to the occasion and do that on their own. That the people who you serve are in the middle of a crisis. You know, where the people who are within this region are going through an extraordinary event, and it takes extraordinary leadership from the business community as well to meet this time of crisis.
Rosanna, some communities, including Sheridan and Snow Lake, are allowing evacuees to go home starting this weekend. So what do we know about when the 5 evacuated First Nations will be able to go home?
So some communities, including Matthias Colomb Cree Nation and Pimicikamat Cree Nation, don't have return dates set yet, but MKO said today that planning is underway between First Nations, the province, and the Red Cross.
There is a task force that's being created right now to facilitate a process of repatriation, and the mode of transportation will probably be buses, and having a coordinated effort to bring everybody home through a system where buses are being used. One of the communities is isolated, so that'll be a different process, of course.
And as they wait for it to be safe, because most of the wildfires are still listed as out of control, SCO is asking for donations, including baby and hygiene supplies, children's toys, and new undergarments. Brittany?
All right, thank you, Rosanna. That's CBC's Rosanna Hempel. Bring in weather specialist Riley Laychuk now. And Riley, some really good news as we learn that hundreds will be able to start going home. Still a lot of eyes on that weather map, though.
Yeah, exactly. We have started to see, as expected, some rain moving into the western side of the province throughout the day today. This cloud cover has started to advance a little bit further to the east into the Swan Valley, into the Parklands. Some of that rain has started. Unfortunately, we don't have radar coverage really anywhere north of, say, Mafeking or so, up toward the Pas and Flint. Not Flaunt. So yeah, we are expecting rain as we head through the weekend to the tune of even 15 to 30 millimeters in some cases for parts of northern Manitoba, mostly for northwestern Manitoba as we get through the weekend, even around Flin Flon, the Pas, some pockets of up to or exceeding 30 millimeters possible this weekend. For southern Manitoba, we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds, what I am classifying as a pretty seasonal, a pretty decent weekend ahead as we get through Saturday into Sunday. Father's Day, of course, also happening this weekend. We're looking at another decent day for that as well. We'll talk about that, talk about the Father's Day forecast, and of course some of the rain that's moving into the province when I come back in a little bit.
All right, and of course the Manitoba Marathon on Sunday as well. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, as the weather gets nicer and more cyclists hit the roads, Manitoba Public Insurance is warning drivers to keep an eye out. MPI says it received reports of 420 crashes last year involving cyclists. 3 people died and hundreds more were injured. It says all of these incidents were preventable. The Crown Corporation offers cycling safety programs to help educate riders of all ages about how to stay safe. Now, it's reminding people to, of course, wear a helmet, follow those traffic signs, and make sure to hand signal when turning. But it's also reminding drivers to keep a safe space, slow down, and change lanes when possible. Winnipeg's new police chief has been on the job for almost 3 months now. Gene Bowers made his first appearance at the Winnipeg Police Board this morning. CBC's Bartley Kivas joins us from outside police headquarters tonight. So Bartley, what did we learn from the chief today?
But police board meetings are sort of like show and tell, where police read reports they've already presented to the board, but they do offer an opportunity to ask the police chief anything. Now today, Bowers was asked about an increasing use of force by police, most notably using conducted energy weapons. Better known as stun gun tasers. Police use these weapons 524 times in 2024. That's precisely double the 5-year average. Gene Bowers says that's not necessarily a bad thing.
They save lives, and the technology is just advancing, rapidly. Where my hope is one day that we never have a shooting where someone's lost their life.
Now, Bowers says the range on stun guns is increasing, and he says eventually he hopes they can eventually replace the use of firearms by police altogether.
Okay, so Bartley, why are police using these energy weapons more often?
Well, according to a report to the board written by Bowers, he says that the use of methamphetamine is driving up the instances, the numbers of incidents where police have to use force. Bowers said people suffering from meth psychosis often have a high tolerance to pain and don't respond as readily to de-escalation. He spoke once more, as he has before, of the need for sobering centers for people under the influence of meth and alcohol, but these require medical professionals on site, and that costs money. Now, a year ago, Premier Wab Kinew said it wasn't acceptable to have people undergoing meth psychosis on the street shadowboxing. He was asked about this today and what's been done since then, and he didn't commit to sobering centers.
So what else did the police chief say today?
Well, Gene Bowers was in charge of investigations, deputy chief in charge of investigations for the police service when the police were determining whether to search the Prairie Green landfill for the remains of murdered women. And I asked Gene Bowers today about his role in the decision making. Now, as you recall, police concluded in 2022 that the remains of 2 First Nations women, Mercedes Myron and Morgan Harris, were transported to the Prairie Green landfill north of Winnipeg. Police didn't conduct a search of the landfill. A search initiated by the Kinew government led to the discovery of the remains of both Harris and Myron, and Bowers said he advocated for that search.
There was a voice at the table that thought that we should search, but again, there are other things to consider regarding that obviously that wasn't what occurred.
Bowers said the police service is about to hire a consultant to help improve reconciliation efforts. Brittany.
All right, thank you. That's CBC's Bartley Kivas. Now, a program aimed at increasing safety in the heart of Winnipeg is back for another year. It's getting more funding and will run longer than before. The goal, to address crime and provide mental health and addiction supports while making the area welcoming for everyone. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has more.
And we want everyone who comes to downtown Winnipeg to feel safe, to feel happy.
That's why the Manitoba government is giving $500,000 to the Downtown Community Safety Partnership to lead a 16-week program that will provide mental health and addiction supports and work to address crime in the area. DCSP Executive Director Greg Burnett says a similar initiative last summer made an impact downtown.
84% of the people we helped got what they needed right away and right at that moment, and no need to call other sources. We're able to work from their inside. And together we reduced calls to 911 by 220.
The summer safety plan wasn't unveiled until early July last year. This year, it will run for 4 weeks longer.
We're going to get to work first thing next week and hopefully be pounding the streets in by the 24th.
Hi there, it's DCSP.
The DCSP provides 24/7 support in the area, ensuring certain responses involving police are also tailored for other situations, like if someone is in distress from mental health or addictions issues. Vincent Lilly says the outreach workers have built relationships with the people they help.
They know that we're coming to help. We've already made that impression and let them know that that's what we're there for. And so when I see that that when we're coming, they see us, they don't run away or they don't, act in any kind of negative way towards us.
Funds from the Summer Action Plan will also be given to other community groups who work with vulnerable and marginalized people downtown, like Wiji Shin Juijinan, founded by 25-year-old Joshua Nepanak.
We hear it all from our advocates and our elders that the youth are the next people to take on the lead and to take on the charge for addressing the needs of particular communities.
The city of Winnipeg and downtown Winnipeg Biz have also pitched in to fund the safety plan, bringing the total amount closer to $600,000. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Hold on to your hats. The X opens today. The yearly fair at Red River Exhibition Park is now open. From rides and food to performers and attractions, there's something for everyone. Now this year, the group says there will not be one big headlining act. It's partially due to rising costs, insurance, and premiums. Instead, they'll be focused on spotlighting local bands. Tickets range between $10 and $18, and then a ride all day wristband is needed if you want to do that. That's $60. The X runs until next Sunday. Well, it looks like it's going to be a decent weekend to get out to that. Lots happening this weekend around the city. Really take your pick.
Exactly. Between that, the Manitoba Marathon, Father's Day, of course, happening this weekend. We'll touch on all of it. We'll start with the Father's Day forecast. How about that? Because that is happening Sunday. If you're heading out at any point for any activities outside, prepare for a pretty nice day, actually. By lunchtime, looking at 23 degrees in Winnipeg, a mix of sun and clouds throughout the day. Sunday, looking at a high of 27. Before we get there, we do have some rain to get through for northern Manitoba, and I showed you earlier the leading edge of some of that starting to make its way into western Manitoba. Here's that area of low pressure as it makes its way in. By the time we get to the morning, we're on the doorstep in Flin Flon of a good steady rain that continues to make its way across the north into north central parts of the province through Grand Rapids, Norway House, into the Island Lake region as we get later Saturday into Sunday. So this is that good soaking rain we've been hoping for, although the forecast modeling has kind of been pushing this a little bit further south as the model runs have been happening over the last couple of days. So I'll show you the numbers in a moment, but places like Lynn Lake might struggle to even get a drop of rain as we head through the weekend. But we'll talk about that. Into Sunday, another round of rain coming to northwestern Manitoba through north central parts. Thompson getting some rain. The rest of us, a mix of sun and clouds. And then here's the next thing I'm watching as we get into the day on Monday. An area of low pressure that stays south of the border. However, the northern flank of this is looking to push across southern Manitoba as we get through Monday. And this will likely mean a few showers across southern Manitoba as we get through the afternoon hours on Monday. So what this all translates to in terms of accumulation as we get through the weekend, a general 15 to 20, some pockets up to 30 plus millimeters of rain into northwestern Manitoba. Thompson, 5 to 10, probably pretty good bet, and really struggling to get any accumulation in places like Lynn Lake. For the south, the rest of us, maybe a trace as the beginnings of that next system start to push into the province as we get into the day on Monday. Temperatures tomorrow morning, another decent morning, another good night to sleep with the windows open tonight. We'll see that haze, some of that smoke with a southeasterly wind start to push out a little bit more. So 13s and 14s first thing in the morning across the south, 16 in Dauphin, 12 in Thompson in the morning. That translates into a 24-degree day for Winnipeg for Saturday, 27 on the way for Father's Day on Sunday. And Brittany, there's those showers I was talking about into Monday. I'll have your 7-day forecast coming up.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Iran has launched dozens of missiles at targets in Israel. It's in retaliation for Israel's biggest ever military attack against Iran, and it comes after Israeli airstrikes hit key nuclear facilities in that country and killed some of its top military leaders. CBC's Chris Brown reports.
Missiles streaked over Tel Aviv Friday, and some Iranian projectiles appeared to breach Israel's air defenses, hitting buildings in a dramatic escalation. Israel had appeared in control all day, attacking Iranian military sites, including the residences of its nuclear scientists, killing them and their families. The Zionist regime made a grave mistake. It acted wrongly, and by God's will, the consequences will bring it to ruin, said Supreme Ruler Ali Khamenei.
More is on the way. The regime doesn't know what hit them. They don't know what will hit them.
Israel's prime minister said the planning took 6 months. Its intelligence services released a rare video of what it said were Mossad agents inside Iran taking out air defenses. In Tehran, people mourned the stunning assassinations of so many top military leaders. The dead included the chief of the armed forces and the head of the Revolutionary Guard. Protesters accused the U.S. and Western countries of betraying Iran for using weeks of what they said were sham nuclear talks to help Israel prepare.
What Israel strategic aims, are not just to destroy Iran's nuclear program, but basically regime change in Iran itself. And that's why I think Iran faces an existential moment.
Israel's strikes included extensive damage to the Natanz facility used by Iran to enrich uranium that could have been potentially used to build a nuclear weapon. The UN's nuclear watchdog expressed alarm.
Nuclear facilities must never be attacked, regardless of the context or circumstances.
In Tel Aviv, a high-rise apartment building was gutted, with reports of wounded, along with other buildings hit and damaged in the suburbs. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
Canada is keeping a close watch over developments between Israel and Iran. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand says Israel has the right to defend itself, but Canada wants to see de-escalation. Kate McKenna reports.
As the world becomes more dangerous, Canada is set to take center stage, hosting the G7 next week.
The G7 might be an occasion for those countries to speak a common voice and say that there must be no escalation in this conflict.
Canada's foreign minister says Israel has the right to defend itself, but calls for de-escalation.
The concerns relating to potential escalation are real, and the key is going to be to de-escalate and to reach a negotiated solution.
The minister has called on all sides to de-escalate the situation, to get to the table to talk. We need to have a real and lasting peace, and that can only happen if people are talking with each other.
The official opposition stands steadfast behind Israel.
Israel has a right to defend itself, including by disarming Tehran's nuclear program. We should all hope that this is the end of the regime's nuclear program and that the great Persian people can now rise up to reclaim their country from this totalitarian regime.
With Iran now launching a counterattack, this conflict risks overshadowing next week's G7 summit in Kananaskis.
With Israel's attack on Iran, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Iran-Israel dynamics have to be at least informally on the agenda. And here there is scope for disagreement, there is scope for tension to rise. So if anything, it makes Prime Minister Carney's job way more complicated than it already was.
I mean, the issue of the Middle East would always be on the agenda of a G7 meeting. So absolutely, but the issues of prosperity, security, and all of the other issues that the Prime Minister will bring will have to be talked about.
Next week's G7 was already expected to be one of the most consequential in years, with a focus on war and peace, energy security, and building international relationships. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has issued a statement on social media calling on all parties to, quote, exercise maximum restraint. Carney says Iran's nuclear program has long been a cause of grave concern, and its missile attacks across Israel threaten regional peace. Today, I convened our National Security Council to receive an update on the situation and to ensure that all necessary steps will be taken to protect our nationals and our diplomatic missions in the region. Canada reaffirms Israel's right to defend itself and to ensure its security. We call on all parties to exercise maximum restraint and move towards a diplomatic resolution. Investigators have recovered the flight data recorder from the plane that crashed Thursday in India. More than 240 people were killed. Salima Shivji reports, and a warning, some of the details are graphic.
The ambulances line up in the oppressive heat, one by one, gathering the remains of the still unidentified crash victims in yellow body bags, moving them to cold storage. The smell of loss lingers everywhere as families wait for news and hand over their DNA.
The brutal heat of the crash and its wreckage left many of the victims unrecognizable. Only a small handful of bodies have been returned to their families so they can begin to grieve. The rest need DNA test results in order to be identified.
For Imtiaz Ali Syed, it's an excruciating wait. His brother, sister-in-law, and the couple's 2 young children were all on board the doomed flight, and he's struggling to process it.
I am not yet now, I am not imagining that he is dead. I am really seeing that from somewhere he will come and he will ask me that whether I am here for you.
Recovery efforts continue at the crash site where more than 260 people died, including Canadian dentist Nirali Patel and Regina permanent resident Piyush Kumar Patel. And the investigation is intensifying. One black box has been found. The flight data recorder holds crucial clues for investigators who are looking at possible issues with the aircraft's engine thrust and landing gear to figure out what led it here. India's Prime Minister got a look at the destruction the plane left behind the morning after the disaster and spoke with the lone survivor, the miracle man who somehow walked away from the crash. I saw people dying right in front of my eyes, Vishwash Kumar Ramesh told the national broadcaster. I can't believe I got out alive. A hole in the fuselage providing him an escape from the worst plane disaster India has seen in decades. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Ahmedabad, India.
A Sikh group is making fresh allegations that India targets people here in Canada for assassination. It's more fuel for their anger that India's Prime Minister is invited here for the G7 summit. Rafi Bujikanian reports.
As Canada prepares to welcome India's Prime Minister to the G7 summit, a Sikh group is presenting new allegations about threats against people in Canada by Narendra Modi's government.
Today, well over a dozen Sikh Canadians continue to live with active duty to warn threats, and that means there's credible threats against their lives, and those threats originate from India.
Moninder Singh has received a half-dozen warnings from law enforcement over the years, working with police and child protection services to avoid danger.
You move around constantly looking over your shoulder. You can't go to your kids' school, you can't go to their practices, you can't go to family events.
Global News is now citing confidential sources alleging an Indian government agent tracked Jagmeet Singh's movements 2 years ago, prompting police protection for the then NDP leader. It also said Singh is no longer believed to be in imminent danger. CBC News has not independently verified this story. Activists say it's all put a chill on other Canadian Sikh politicians denouncing India.
Imagine what that means to our democracy when there are elected representatives within the House of Commons who are afraid to speak because of implications that may have for their safety.
Some defend Modi's G7 invitation.
India's strategic importance has grown considerably in the past decade. It's the 5th largest economy in the world.
Canada is standing firm on its invite as Sikh activists plead with it to stop sharing intelligence with India and to hold a second inquiry into foreign interference focused on that country. Rafi Bujikani on CBC News, Ottawa.
The sexual assault trial that began in late April for 5 former Hockey Canada World Junior players has now come to an end. The 5 accused have all pleaded not guilty to allegations of sexual assault at a London hotel in June 2018. The Crown took aim this week at defense submissions that the complainant's testimony was, quote, unreliable. Defense lawyers also argued the woman, known as EM, consented to sex acts with the 5 men accused. The Crown said there's been no fundamental change in EM's narrative about the alleged assaults since 2018. She also said accusations EM could benefit financially are baseless since a civil settlement was made before those charges were laid. The judge hearing the case will deliver her decisions on July 24th. About 200 Marines have moved into Los Angeles to protect federal property. They were deployed by U.S. President Donald Trump, who says they're needed to stop rioters. Protests started last week over Trump's crackdown on undocumented migrants. The Marines are in addition to thousands of National Guard troops. Meanwhile, preparations are underway in Washington for a parade Saturday celebrating the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. The celebration coincides with Trump's 79th birthday. Large so-called No King demonstrations are expected across the country at the same time to protest against Trump's authoritarian leadership style. Ticks are showing up in more places earlier in the season and bringing disease risks with them. CBC's Johanna Wagstaff breaks down how climate change is helping ticks thrive and why public health experts say it's time to pay attention.
Ticks. No one likes to see these little guys coming, but unfortunately, they're not just a summer problem anymore, and they're not just an Eastern Canada thing either. This year, you'll find them in more places, but not all ticks come with the same problems. Here's where to be on the lookout and what you need to know depending on where you live. So ticks used to hang out mainly in southern Ontario, but they're expanding their range, especially the black-legged lime-carrying variety. Now, they're in almost every southern province. Thanks to climate change, these 8-legged arachnids, yes, they're cousins of spiders, are moving north and west fast, around 50 kilometers per year. Warmer winters mean more ticks survive the cold. Ideally, it stays above 4 degrees for them. So longer springs and falls give them extra time to feed and breed. One well-fed female can lay up to 3,000 eggs. Plus, their hitchhiking hosts, deer, mice, birds, they're moving north too. This year, Eastern Canada had a mild winter and a damp spring, basically perfect tick weather. In places like New Brunswick, researchers are finding huge numbers of ticks.
Depending where you are, the percentage of ticks that are infected, as you go further north, it can be as low as 15%. When you're the south, southern Ontario, southern Nova Scotia, middle of Nova Scotia, 70-80%. It's kind of appalling.
Okay, but here's the part that really gets me. They're basically crawling bags of pathogens. Lyme is the big one, but they can also spread other viruses too, sometimes multiple infections from just one bite. If you're in BC though, the picture is a little different. Ticks are on the rise, but Lyme rates have stayed low. Less than 1% of ticks tested carry that bacteria. That's partly thanks to different species, different hosts, and different vegetation here. It's a similar story across the southern prairies. Most ticks don't carry the virus, but numbers are climbing. So Canada doesn't track ticks nationally in real time, but apps like eTick show a clear spike in reports this year. It's not perfect data, but it's telling. People are noticing and uploading a lot. So what can you do? Stick to trails, wear long socks, check for ticks after you've been outside, especially on kids and dogs. And if you find a tick on you, basically a freckle with legs, don't panic. The tick usually needs to be attached for over 24 hours to transmit the disease. Use tweezers, grab the tick as close to your skin as possible and pull straight out. Clean the bite area, keep an eye on the bite site for rash or flu-like symptoms, and see a doctor if anything feels off. I leave you with very good news. One day soon, we hope to have a vaccine. Scientists are working on it. Until then, enjoy the outdoors, just be tick smart.
Runners will be lacing up and taking over Winnipeg streets this weekend for the Manitoba Marathon. The first race kicks off just before 7 a.m. with staggering start times after that. Drivers will need to find alternate routes to get around the city. There's a bunch of closures. Chancellor Matheson Road between Research Way and University Crescent closes at 8 a.m. tomorrow and stays closed until 3 Sunday. On race day, you can expect single lanes of traffic to be affected on many roads starting at 2 a.m. and there'll be no access eastbound Jubilee from Pembina and a number of partial closures on Wellington Crescent and other areas. There's
just stay home.
Too many to list. So you can head to the city's website or stay home or get out there, walk, bike,
on foot.
Go beside, help cheer some people on because my goodness, it's going to be a nice day for it.
Yeah, you'll recall in past years we've had issues with rain, we've had issues with extreme heat, high humidity. This week, this Sunday, looking decent.
Yeah, so. I love that. That's your favorite, decent.
I like
it. But it is. It's going to be a really nice day.
Yeah. I'll start with the forecast for the Manitoba Marathon. So as you heard, they're kicking off around 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Temperature should be around 14 or 15 degrees in Winnipeg. Humidity, not much of an issue either. Mainly sunny sky. Sun rises after 5:30 in the morning, or a little before 5:30 in the morning now. So, sunny by the time that starts. 21 degrees by the time things are starting to wrap up around 10 o'clock in the morning. A little bit of cloud mixes in there, mix of sun and clouds. So, like I said, a pretty good spring day to get out for the Manitoba Marathon or anything you have planned for Father's Day even on the weekend. Feline Friday. Java looks exactly like I will be on the weekend. Thank you, Jen and Stephen, for sending this picture in. It's been a long week. Talk back at cbc.ca is where you can send your pets. Southeast winds gusting up to around 30 as we get through the afternoon tomorrow, so that should help push some of that haze out of the Red River Valley. I know we were contending with it a little bit again today, but things should get better as we start to get this shift in pattern going here as we get through the next couple of days, as I've been saying. Temperatures right now, well, we were hovering around 24 degrees for much of the afternoon in Winnipeg. We've popped up to 25 degrees this hour, 23 in Brandon, 20s up the western side of the province, 20 degrees in Thompson as well. Overnight tonight, temperatures very seasonal for this time of the year. Once again, things really right around 10 degrees. Maybe some 9s and 8s in there, particularly into the southeastern corner of the province. Sprague at 8 degrees tonight. Dauphin at 12. The Pas Océan at 12 degrees as well. You'll notice that rain starting to move into the western part of the province. Thompson at 7 degrees overnight. And you can see that rain as it pushes into northwestern Manitoba. This is what we want to see as we get through the weekend here. 19 in the Pas and Océan by the afternoon tomorrow. Looking at 18 in Grand Rapids. Norway House at 21 degrees. We'll get another round of that rain as we get through Sunday. Very seasonal across the south once again as well, looking at a mix of sun and clouds. Winds pretty variable, 15 gusting 30 generally is what we're looking at tomorrow out of the southeast. 23 in Brandon through the afternoon, 25 in Dauphin. Into Sunday, temperatures warm up a little bit once again, 27s, 28s through Westman into the Parkland. Portage at 28, Brittany, and we're looking at 27 degrees in Winnipeg on Sunday. As I said earlier, not a bad Father's Day.
All right, thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, they say cooking is a skill that everyone should have, and that's why the Little Chef Institute in Winnipeg believes you're never too young to start learning. They offer cooking classes to kids as young as 3. CBC's Jim Agapito checked it out.
Why did you want to learn how to cook?
I always watch cooking shows with my family when we're eating dinner, so that kind of inspired me.
So tell me, why did you want to take this class?
Because when I'm older, I want to be a professional chef.
Okay, so this is a good starting point for you.
Yeah.
Okay, what are some of the things that you've learned so far?
How to use a bench scraper, how to properly use a knife.
My name is Sophie Fiola. I'm the director of Little Chef Institute, and we are in the kitchen for one of our cooking classes today. Yeah. So the kids come in, they pick out an apron, and then they grab their spot over here at their station. Today they're practicing knife skills, so they're gonna look at different vegetables and learn how to cut them and really practice that skill. But some days we might have oven and stove safety. Some days we might have how to read a recipe, how to measure flour and stuff like that.
The blade of the knife is going to rub against our knuckles right here. This protects our fingertips, again, from getting cut. We're using our bench scraper to scrape this.
What inspired you to create cooking classes for kids?
One of the things that we're finding is that a lot of kids are losing their food literacy skills. Parents are just too busy these days to teach their kids how to cook, and you don't have home ec classes in schools anymore. So there's not only is there a demand for cooking classes, but there's also a need. So it was kind of serendipitous, and that's why we're here. Start with the flat side, right?
And what's the benefit of teaching kids to cook so young?
I mean, the younger you start, the more kind of invested they are in the process. And especially with young kids who are picky, it can be a really good way to introduce them to different fruits and vegetables, and just help them develop a more varied palate. Because if the kids are involved in the cooking process, they're more likely to want to try the food. So where you put one hand on both sides, and then when you do the carrot, that way you've got really good control over it. A lot of kids actually don't know how to read recipes. Because if you think about it, there's a certain literacy to reading a recipe. So for example, if you look at a recipe and it says 1 cup of walnuts chopped, that's different than 1 cup of chopped walnuts. Our philosophy is really just to give them the space to learn to do things by themselves. We don't want to do things for them. We want to encourage them to do as much by themselves as possible.
I like to cook pasta.
Pasta? Yeah, who doesn't like pasta, huh? And you cut some carrots already, and you cut some, what did you cut there? Cucumbers?
Yeah.
Nice. Do you want to one day cook for your parents?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you want to make them? Pasta?
A cake.
A cake?
For myself.
Okay, for yourself. I like that. What? Okay, why did you want to take this class?
Because I like it.
You like cooking?
Mm-hmm.
They see their parents cooking, and that's an age where you really learn by watching, and they want to be involved in the process. So, we kind of give them the space to go for it.
So we have crispy chicken sandwiches. So you guys are gonna have a wrap or a bun, and then you guys can eat it with your vegetables that you cut today. And then we have hummus and ranch for dipping.
I think my favorite story is one of the parents told me that his 8-year-old son made them pancakes, and his mom and dad just got to sit there and sip their coffee and have their child make breakfast for them. When that parent told me that story, I was like, oh my God, I did it. Yes, we nailed it.
As we head into the weekend, thought I'd touch briefly on air quality. The Air Quality Health Index in Winnipeg today, peaking early this morning at about a 7. It's been falling ever since then. As we head into Saturday, we should drop down to a 2 by the time we get into the afternoon, as the winds push some of that smoke and diffuse some of that with some fresher air. By the way, in case you're wondering, for the Manitoba Marathon on Sunday, we are also looking at that air quality at a 2. So low risk as we head into the weekend. Father's Day, 27 degrees in Winnipeg, a mix of sun and clouds. Our next chance for some showers coming into Monday at 24 degrees through the afternoon, 23 into Tuesday, and then a little bit unsettled as we get toward the end of the week. Into Thursday, a chance we could see some thunderstorms at 26 degrees, and a clearing sky into Friday at 28. Well, there is a new kind of bike that has hit the streets of one town on Prince Edward Island.
It's part of a program to allow long-term care residents to feel the wind in their hair once again. Here's your Daily Lift.
This program is actually called Cycling Without Age. So it's a program that no matter what age we get to, we can still do these things and get out cycling again.
Well, somebody's going to take me for a drive on the bicycle.
My favorite part is I don't have a pedal.
This initiative actually started during that time of COVID. I had a resident at the time that loved to cycle, cycled all her life, and could no longer do that. And she had cycled our trail tip to tip 5 times. And I thought, how can we get this lady back on the trail again? It takes them back to a time when they rode a bike, or sometimes they had one bike in their family. They'll tell me all kinds of stories, and they had to share the bike. And just that, the wind in their hair and then going down the road, they're very excited.
Just terrific. It's just, it's like riding a bike yourself, but you can't do it.
Yes, you still can do it, just in a little different way. So they're actually at their friend's door saying, will you come out with me this afternoon? Because 2 can go on at a time. So it's a social aspect of it as well. Just seeing the excitement and the smiles on their faces, it just makes your day.
I love that. And I love that the woman said, and I don't have to pedal.
Yeah, it's quite the workout for the person that's
But the best part, you just get to sit and enjoy and take in all of the beautiful scenery.
That's the kind of bike ride I like.
That's the kind of marathon I'm going to be doing on Sunday. I'm just going to take it in and watch, spectate.
There you go.
Have a great night. See you Monday.